Today we're talking about the Sheeran Looper Plus. First, I want to demonstrate my guitar because this impacts one of the features that I used from the Sheeran Looper Plus and why I picked it. Two pickups, and it has two cables, two outs. And one of those runs through line 6 Pod Go, which has effects in stereo, and I wanted to maintain those stereo effects both through my PA when I play live, but also for when I record and if I'm doing live streams for any kind of digital content that I'm creating. The stereo effects sound really nice in the headphones or when you're listening at home, if you're listening through something that can utilize that stereo sound. If you're wearing headphones for that, you'll hear what I'm talking about, those effects, you can't feel them if it's in mono, and I can demonstrate. I've now switched it to mono. If you're wearing headphones, you'll see it's not remotely the same. Alright, so I was using a Boss RC1 for my solo acoustic setups, and I made the decision to switch to the Sheeran Looper Plus because it could run it in stereo, but also it had the ability to match through MIDI the tempo. And since with this setup that you see before you right now, that I call the Space Arc, is using a Boss RC505 as the primary source for looping, I was running into a challenge with the limitation of the number of tracks being 5 and wanting to have a couple more tracks that I could use so that each track could have its own purpose. There are some songs that would have 3 different distinct chord progressions, maybe even some that have 2 different beat timings. Also, they have maybe a certain lead melody that I want to be able to call and get out of. And having a couple more tracks was going to be really useful. And so I've experimented with that. That's one of the things I'm going to talk about today. But let's look at the unit. So here I've got a picture of the Sheeran Looper Plus, the back side of it. There are multiple options for getting sound into the unit. You have a mic input, you have a left-right on the instrument, and then there's a left-right main out. There's a slot for an external foot switch. There's the MIDI in for using the MIDI sync. It comes with the conversion cable that you need to convert it to an actual MIDI cable. And then it has a USB and the DC in and the power switch. This worked out perfect for me because for the pickup on my guitar that is primarily an acoustic that I'm using to get that acoustic body, the acoustic sound, I've run that through the mic input. First I have it running through a DI, and then I have it running into the mic input. And then for the instrument, that I have a left and right coming out of line 6 Pod Go. That goes into the Sheeran Plus, and then it goes into my Boss 505 if I'm using my big Space Arc one-man band looping setup. We'll get rid of this view of the backside, and we're looking at the actual looper here. As you can see, you have volume controls for the instrument, for the mic, and for the main. And since I'm using 2 inputs on my guitar, you can see the volume levels they show. If I change effects, if I take the line 6 Pod Go out, you just have the acoustic sound. I took it out with the volume pedal on the Pod Go. But it's nice to have this way running it through the Sheeran Looper Plus. And this is a unique situation, but it's still really nice. There might be other people that could use this in a similar way. It's really nice to have those volume controls right there on the Looper Plus. I use this for my solo acoustic gigs, so this gets me everything I need, for a basic looper for solo acoustic gigs, but it's also really useful for implementing into, whatever I want to take my pedal board into, being able to control those independent volume controls right there on the Sheeran Looper Plus is really, really nice. and then you also have the main out. So I can control the blend with the instrument volume and the mic volume, and then I can control the master with the main. And it's a 2-track looper. So you have the record and play foot switch, and you have the stop foot switch. And I've hooked it up to an external foot switch, I guess an A-B switch, a passive switch. And this has worked out perfectly for me. I didn't need something that's active. I think it cost me about $20. I've been able to set up a little bit of extra control where I can switch between the tracks. And I forget the other thing that I set it up for, but if you want a little bit of extra control, the foot switch the external foot switch is kind of nice because it is a little limited with just having these 2 switches. But I feel with the external foot switch, you kind of have everything you need, all the control that you need with your feet. And for the most part, when I'm doing solo acoustic stuff, I'm not doing complex loops anyway. But if you wanted to do something a little more complex, you do have that capacity as it is a 2-track looper. And so I'm going to have us look at that real quick. Switch mics. All right, we're looking at the Sheeran Looper Plus. Here's the switches, by the way. This is the switch I've used as the external foot switch. Ampero switch. Momentary foot switch. Just simple thing. Right now I've got it set up in song mode. So let's look at first let's just hold down this function button, and that's going to take us to our menu. And we can flip through a lot of potential menus. Honestly, I've not done much with these things. I think these are settings within, like I'm not able to actually select this. But the only things that I've really bothered about using the Logic, because the Logic is like only gives you a short time to look at it. Otherwise, you got to kind of rotate between them. You have record, play, dub. That's what it is. So you could go record, play, dub, or you can go record, dub, play. Now, if we look at the mode, you have 4 different modes. Currently, I have it on song mode. So if I keep it on song mode, if I hit record, you can see it starts recording. It tracks the seconds. Now, if I hit again, it's going to be playing. Well, that's kind of cool. You can hear it replaying. That's actually going through my guitar, the mic on my guitar. If we switch, so I'm going to hit now on my Ampero foot switch, I'm going to hit the A button, which I've set to switch tracks. Now you can see it selected the B track. Now if I hit record again, it's going to start recording on the B track. Now in song mode, these are completely independent. So if I hit record again, now if I switch, and then I hit, it immediately switches. Do you see that? So if I select, I change the track selected, so I've selected B. You can see I'm alternating B, A, B, A. So if I select B, and then I hit the record or the play switch here, it will immediately start playing the song or play that B track. I didn't see any method for creating like a delayed switch where when you trigger one, it'll play at the end of the loop. I didn't see anything like that. But the way that it is, that can still be useful in its own way. That the moment that you want to switch tracks, you can do that instantly. And so what this particular mode is for is setting up a song that has 2 different chord progressions or 2 different main movements. Oh, we got to clear to change the modes. So we're going to select those tracks and then you just hold the stop to clear. All right, so then we're going to select the mode, the sync mode. Now this is where I believe each one can play together. So if you go like, and if we select this and we record this, yep, they're in sync. You see it's still recording? So the first loop is about 4 seconds. That one stops, and then this one goes to 8. And then they stop, so everything's in sync. So this is kind of nice if you want to have like a lead melody or some additional things that you add to a loop that you want to call upon, but you're only really doing one kind of progression. Or potentially if you put a beat on track A and then the chord progression on track B, the sync mode can be useful for certain strategies or ideas within looping. The multi-mode. multi-mode. So we'll do that, and we'll switch over here. So multi-mode, everything has the same timing. So if I record for 4 seconds on the track A, then I have 4 available seconds on track B. Same timeline. I saw clear. And then we have single mode, where it's just you just turn it into a one-track looper. All right, so I'm going to look at something else here. So we got the assign. You can look at this is where you assign your foot switches. So I've got foot switch 1 assigned to the track, and then I have foot switch 2 also assigned to the track. But this would be a cool one if you use, for example, if you could do a clear all, that would be cool, or undo, redo, clear, fade all. Clear is kind of nice, so you don't have to hold this down. You can switch your modes, your orders here. But solo current is kind of nice because what you can do with that, if I select this, I don't think it'll let me select because I'm in song mode. So if I go to, let's say sync mode, and then I assign foot switch 2 to solo current. Now, if we record on this one, we're recording, and then we switch to this and we record a little bit longer, and we record a little bit longer. Now both are playing together, right? So I can select my different tracks with my A switch, and then if I want to solo that one, you see how it mutes. If I select A and then I hit solo A, it chooses solo A, and then if I hit it again, it lets both play together. All right, and the last thing I want to look at with this looper is the MIDI. So if I can choose the MIDI source. So if I choose the 1/8 inch input that we looked at on the back, and we can choose external control being on or off. So if I wanted to sync this with my Boss 505, then I would choose that 1/8 inch source, and I'd run the cable, a MIDI cable, into my Boss 505 out of the Sheeran Looper. There are settings on the Boss 505, but it's pretty straightforward and simple, and it syncs. But what I've found after trying it out and using it, it totally works, it syncs. But there's one significant downside. Since I've got my guitar routed through here, and the guitar is doing chord progressions, it wasn't very useful to me. My idea is that I would be basically taking my Boss 505 from a 5-track looper and using this and connecting them, MIDI syncing. Then I would be turning my Boss 505 from a 5-track looper to a 7-track looper. Now I think this could still work if I was running my percussion sounds through the Sheeran Looper Plus. Then that could work perfectly, because I could take out very easily the percussion by stopping whatever's playing on the Sheeran Looper Plus, which is really useful. And then I could add it in at any time, and it would work because it's synced. The problem if you're using it when the guitar is going through, or any kind of instrument that is responsible for chord progressions, those chord progressions need to start at very specific times. And so that completely gets in the way and kind of defeats the purpose as I've got it set up now. But if you wanted to route your percussion sounds through the Sheeran Looper Plus and use that as 2 additional tracks connected to a Boss 505 or anything else, that would totally work, because you can add the percussion sounds at any point in time, and since they're MIDI synced, it'll feel good and it'll fit the rhythm. There's also a few other challenges, like there's no way to stop OL or start OL. You would have to try to stop and start on the separate units at the same time, and that's not really possible. Can't do it physically. It's not truly converting the Boss 505 to a 7-track looper. And so for my purposes, since I'm running my guitar through this, I stopped using the MIDI sync, and I don't bother going through the trouble of connecting it, which is really easy. At this point, all it is connecting the MIDI cable from the Sheeran Looper Plus to the Boss 505, and I can just leave it plugged into one of them. It's as simple as plugging in one cable to one port. But I figured it was worth mentioning in this video just because somebody might want to do something with that and do something that way. And if you wanted to use this to increase another looper that you have that can do MIDI sync by a couple of tracks, this is an actual way that you could do that, and it would work. So it's something I wanted to include. It's a great looper. It feels like it's built really well. I think it's going to last a long time. It looks great. I like having it on my pedal board. I'm really happy to have it on my pedal board. And like I said, the previous one that I had before that was a Boss RC1. RC1's been great. I'm on my second one. I would say that the first one didn't hold up as long as I thought it would. I had enough faith in the RC1 that I bought a second one, and it worked great for me. Takes up very little space on the pedal board and gives you kind of everything you need from a simple loop station. But there's more features in this Sheeran Looper Plus. As a solo acoustic performer, you really don't need anything more than that. I'll leave it there. That's my sort of walkthrough and review of the Sheeran Looper Plus. Thanks for checking out the video, and I look forward to the next review and being with you guys again. Take care.